Now for some perspective on today's deadly mass shooting.
Yeah, the FBI confirms it's investigating this as a hate crime. And we're now joined by Cal State San Bernardino professor Brian Levin, who's also the director of the Center for the Study of Hate and Extremism. Thanks so much for joining us this evening. Do you think that the administration bears any responsibility to this?
Not for this particular attack. In fact, the assailant spoke of his disappointment in President Trump for being surrounded by so many Jews. But in a larger context, I think the president could have done a much better job with respect to Charlottesville. Also, he's gutted some of the agencies that work in the area of hate crime and hate crime prevention. Moreover, he has not disavowed effectively the wellspring of support that he receives from the alt-right and white nationalists and neo-Nazis. He has not yet done an effective job in any sustained way. I'm not saying that he is a bigot, but what I am saying is the hardcore hate mongers in the world think that he supports them, and he needs to disavow them root and branch and sustain it over time.
Mr. Levin, have we seen a spike in hate crimes in election times before?
You know, every election year we saw some increases, but it wasn't necessarily directly tied to elections. In 2016, though, we saw something new. This was in a time of rising white nationalism, and 2016, November, was the worst month in 14 years since the first anniversary of 9/11. Moreover, the day after election, we had an anti-Muslim bomb plot and the largest number of hate crimes that we've seen since 2003. And let me just say one other thing that kind of blends into the previous question. When political leaders make derogatory statements, particularly around catalytic events like elections or terrorist attacks, we have seen spikes. So people really who are in leadership positions must be careful. So for instance, 5 days after the San Bernardino terrorist attacks, we already had a spike in anti-Muslim hate crimes. And then we had an additional one after his Muslim ban proposal. Similarly, after the controversy about Syrian refugees, we saw a spike in anti-Muslim hate crimes. However, when he launched his campaign and said derogatory things about Mexicans, anti-Latino hate crimes did not go up at that time, but they did spike in 2016, and specifically, they had the biggest spike right after the election time. So sometimes the spikes come directly after elections, sometimes it's more nuanced, and sometimes it comes directly after political rhetoric, and sometimes it's more nuanced and takes a little longer.
Well, Professor, President Trump said today that if there was an armed guard at the synagogue, the outcome might have been different. Do you think that's really the answer?
No, I don't. And if we look at some of the attacks that we've seen, for instance, some shootings in Las Vegas where police were ambushed, or in other instances where police were actually shot, like at the Pulse nightclub, which actually had an armed guard. I think we really have to look at the fact that we have military weapons out there. And in Pittsburgh in 2009, 3 Pittsburgh police officers were murdered by a neo-Nazi with assault weapons. We have to make it clear that those who are unstable or not responsible should not have access to weapons of war. And the Constitution, by the way, even Justice Scalia said that there is no blank check to have any kind of weapon you want at any time. We have to have common sense talk on this. I just spoke today with one of the families of the San Bernardino terrorist attack, and I promised them that I would say this: please, let's have some sensible regulations regarding these weapons of war. We're not talking about handguns to defend a home. We're talking weapons of war, and the Constitution does allow certain kinds of restrictions, even with fundamental rights like the Second Amendment.
All right, Professor Levin joining us this evening. We appreciate all of your insight.